Back here in Naples, Florida, and this 2019 U.S. Open Championship, sponsored by Minto and powered by Margaritaville. It has been so much fun. Naples has proven to be such a great home for this event. See the final numbers from that first game. 7 unforced errors by Yates and Johns, but more important than anything, they scored the final 8 points of that game to come back from a 9-3 deficit and turn it into an 11-9 win in game one.
Yeah, it's almost a blur, really, and how that happened. Looking at the stats, it doesn't necessarily indicate that that's how the outcome of that final game would be.
No, I mean, you could see that Yates and Johns really changed their strategy. They decided to take a much more powerful approach early on. The young kids really taking it to the old guys out there in the second half of that first game, and we'll see if Weinbach and Wright are able to counteract that strategy going forward.
Players just waiting for the stilts people. I don't know what you want to call them to clear the court.
Stilters?
The stilters?
Yeah, they're part of Margaritaville, and they actually do this as a career. I was listening to it earlier today.
I actually spoke with one of them earlier today. I said, you know, I'd like to borrow those when I go to a music festival. She said, yes. She said, I've tried that. They won't let me in with them.
Well, here we go. Let's see what happens in game 2.
0-0-2.
They switch sides for this second game. Wind not really so much of a factor under this shade structure here in Naples, Florida. It also kind of blocks some of the wind.
Yeah, it's feels pretty still in here for the most part.
Wow, what great hands by Weinbach.
And just long.
Yep. So the serve now goes over to Yates and Johns.
And you know, well, Dave said earlier he was wanting patience and discipline, and we didn't see it there.
Yeah, a little bit early to do it. You know, it's clear that they're feeling that pressure, and it's tough to decide when that ball is at kind of marginally high enough to attack. Let's see what happens in this point. There you go. There's a marginal ball, and I mean, we've talked about Matt Wright's backhand and the power he can generate. I would put that up against Ben John's power on the backhand side any day. He's so strong on that backhand side. Balls that you think there's no way someone's going to hit hard, and yet he doesn't. There it is again, just too low.
See the sweat pouring off the faces here. It is very sticky in the humidity here in Florida in early May.
Are you talking about mine and Mark's or the players?
I was going to say, I'm very comfortable here in this air-controlled or air-conditioned booth. It's really comfortable.
Yeah, what happened to our fan, by the way? We've had a fan, and it's just sitting there. Suddenly turned off. Weinbach off the top of the net cord, didn't land in.
Oh.
And they're going to say, no, it did not. See if we can get a look at it.
I think they did call that in afterwards. 1-2, Weinbach and Wright on the board.
Yep, indeed, they did call it in. You are correct.
Get in there.
You can see Weinbach getting a little bit frustrated with himself right now, missing some shots that he thinks he should be able to make.
Yeah, his emotions seem to be quite high. I think he's going to need to get those a bit more under control.
Sometimes what you'll see when you get a sense that that player is feeling that pressure, is you're going to start to target them, and we're seeing a little bit of that here, although Johns and Yates are typically trying to keep the ball cross-court most of the time.
A smart decision there by Yates to let it go.
Yeah, you're going to see those cross-court dinks partly because when you hit diagonally, you have a little more room to work with than when you hit down the line. And so a cross-court shot that you're trying to drop low and short typically is a good idea to go diagonally. And you also have a slightly lower net over the center.
2-1-2.
Any idea why Ben's wearing a black sock and a white sock?
Hashtag fashion.
3-1-2.
That is a great question. Well, I mean, listen, I see a lot of NBA players wear two different shoes, so. Who knows what these kids are thinking these days?
We could also ask why Dave Weinbach is wearing the same shorts that he's been wearing for 10 years right now. Dave Weinbach, it's so funny. Dave Weinbach is a great player, and he's also he's unique. He's unique in his technique that we see here. He's unique in his personality. And he's also unique with, some of the things you see out there. He's the one with the tights out there. This is a pair of shorts that I know came out a few years ago, and he's so distinctive with his red hat, the Dave Weinbach Badger logo.
Sharing the pickleball love.
Well, yeah, like I guess if it works, keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
He is a proud Wisconsinite. There's no question about that.
So let's see. Yeah.
There we go. So that ball a little bit too high from right on the forehand side of Yates. Likes hitting that ball on the forehand side.
So 3-1-1 is Yates and Johns get the serve back. They'd love to go on a run here, and then Johns thought he saw an opportunity, but unable to execute.
I think what it was there is that he missed his first opportunity on that ball and tried to make up for it with the second one, but.
So the serve will head back over to Weinbach and Wright. But their offense has been stagnant. Can they finally get something going?
Yeah, we talked about getting the emotions under control. Let's see if we can get the unforced errors under control. Not a good start to that.
Nope. I mentioned that Kyle Yates won a gold earlier on Championship Saturday. Matt Wright was on the wrong end of that match, as he had to settle for the silver along with Lucy Kovalova.
Yeah, he was. Matt Wright and Kyle Yates teamed up in this event, the U.S. Open Men's Pro last year, and won the gold. Kyle is the 3 years, ever since the U.S. Open's been in inception, he has been the Men's Pro Open winner. So he's going for his fourth.
And did they say what the reason for the change was?
I didn't ask. I know that Matt and Dave did play nationals together, and it may be that the partnerships were already lined up. That's not unusual.
I do know that Ben Johns considers Kyle Yates his mentor, as well as his great friend. So it's makes a lot of sense to see these two together.
Sure.
So all of a sudden, Weinbach and Wright are clawing their way back here. 3-3. Yates and Johns would like to get at least one more point before they give up the side out.
And folks might notice Dave's unique style. He drops his head when he hits the ball. Whether he's...
Especially off of a return of serve. You'll see this when... It's what I was referring to earlier when we talked about the unique technique.
Great winner there by Ben Johns. And you said it, Mark, they would like to get at least one more point. Now they're going to get greedy. They'd like to try and put the pressure on here, already having won the first game.
Yeah, look for a drive to the open court, to the right side of the court here. Or cross court.
And so I don't want to forget this, but, Kyle won the U.S. Open with Matt last year, and the first 2 years he won it with Dave Weinbach.
Just shows you Kyle is so good he can play with so many people.
Speaking of good, how's that around the post shot for a winner?
I'd say that's pretty fantastic. The crowd agrees.
Not a lot of angle to work with on that one, but he lined it up just right. That's a nearly indefensible shot. There's that head down technique on the forehand side from Weinbach.
Mark, is the around the post shot one that you can try to set up, or is it something that you just kind of got to see it as it's happening?
So you do have to see that it's there, but you'll notice that there's certain patterns. So I know when I'm out there playing and competing, you'll see if you get into a cross-court exchange with someone and you're being patient and they try to go a little more cross-court, a little more cross-court, a little more cross-court, they're getting greedy, as you said a second ago. And you can kind of anticipate that around the post opportunity might present itself. Now, you have to be able to see it when it's actually there, but you'll see players who just try to go for a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and the alarm bells will go off that maybe you've got an opportunity coming.
Tightening up here. 4-5-2.
The ones that you really can't see is when you're in a cross-court rally and it's not going to be an ATP opportunity, but then the ball clips the top of the net, dribbles over, and that changes the angle that it's hit at. And so that's one that is 100% just about reading and reacting as it's happening.
But few players can read and react with the efficiency of these guys. Going to the lob. We haven't seen many of those in this match.
It was a great offensive lob, getting them off of the non-volley zone line or the kitchen line.
So be very selective about when you play those lobs. If they're a bit too short, you're in trouble. And if you're a little too deep, obviously the ball's out.
5-5-2 as Yates hits it into the net. And Dave Benz, Melissa McCurley, Mark Renison, so happy to have you along here on CBS Sports Network's coverage of the 2019 Minto U.S. Open Pickleball Championships.
It's great to have you here. I know you're usually with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Well, it's this is a highlight on my calendar, I can tell you. This is such a great tournament, such great people to be around, such a great atmosphere.
It'd be great to see some of those NBA players on the pickleball court. Imagine what would happen with the reach into the kitchen. Seriously, you're like, I'm only half joking because as we see pickleball evolve, and we're seeing new players coming in, we're seeing players get taller and taller, and the same way that you are in other sports, including NBA basketball or baseball, hockey even, where the taller athletes, as long as they still maintain some, the necessary agility, have a big advantage, and so the same is true here.
You're saying a Rudy Gobert with a 9-7 standing reach would be pretty effective?
Pretty tough to hit a third shot drop against someone like that.
Mark always recruiting new picklers.
Good try. I mean, it is definitely one of the strategies. There are players out there that you might look at and say, look, of the two, they might be the weaker of the two players, and so you think, oh, I should target that player. The trouble is if they're 6'5" and they can reach far into that kitchen, you might say, maybe I should avoid them because of that height. So it really is a threat, and Matt Wright out here is the tallest on the court. But Ben Johns, I mean, he's young. I feel like he's still growing. Every time I see him, he's getting taller and stronger.
Just a college sophomore.
It's a good defensive block from him.
And that'll get the serve back for Johns and Yates as they now find themselves trailing here in game 2.
Yeah, Dave and Matt seem to have settled down a bit. And you can hear Matt encouraging Dave. Matt's a very encouraging partner. We see that from him when he's playing mixed doubles as well.
Matt out of Wichita, Kansas. Weinbach trying to show the power. He says, and Matt Wright says, I got your back, buddy.
Better check that ball after that overhead. Yeah, a good lob. Dave Weinbach, quick to get back to it.
Yeah, almost like a hook shot.
That was a spike.
So Wright is thinking right now that that was not the right time to go for that one. A little bit overexcited.
Kind of acknowledged that with the look over to his partner, Weinbach.
It's so tempting, you know, when you receive a ball that's slow. Uh-oh, it was a miscommunication.
Wow.
What a cross-court shot on Weinbach.
And that's going to get the chest bump and the crowd fired up.
So, yeah, right here you see Yates jump the corner. That means that Johns has to come over to the middle to cover, and that leaves the cross court. And that was a great redirect there by Weinbach.
Yeah, and they really needed that just for, I think, for their mental state after the prior error by Matt.
So this is sometimes something I see from Weinbach. We've talked about it earlier, and you mentioned emotions, keeping them in check. And sometimes that kind of mistake, that's a makeable ball for him. That is a ball that he generally does make. And sometimes when you get all fired up like that, you just get a little overexcited.
Ben just showed some really great skills working his way through that transition zone.
Unforced error there. Yates and Johns onto the second server now. We showed you the bracket earlier. Wright and Weinbach had to go to 3 games in their semifinal match to get to this championship. And they're getting the serve back here now with a 7-5 advantage in game 2. 4 points away from getting this thing to a 3rd and decisive game. An unfortunate bounce for Weinbach off the top of the net. Weinbach, who has built a pickleball court in his own backyard. As said, pickleball has opened up so many relationships for him with people all over the country.
Yeah, he spends a great deal of time. I mean, pickleball is not what he does full time. He also has his own investment management firm, but he spends a lot of time teaching clinics, doing lessons.
He's a portfolio manager and CPA, as well as the owner of the firm.
Wow. Looked like Ben Johns was waiting for that ball. Just like Matt Wright disguised it pretty well, I thought, but you can see that Johns was waiting on that backhand. Great counterattack.
So the serve will go back over to Johns and Yates.
5-7-1.
Oh, great job digging that one out by Yates.
Watch for the angle here. Oh,
Oh my
Wow.
goodness. And that angle's going to do it. But what some great defense we just saw from Ben Johns.
yeah, of course. And we talked about this sometimes in the past about you know, one of the more conventional ways about thinking about pickleball is that you should never back up from the line. Here we just saw a great example of why that's so important when you think your opponents are going to hit hard, to back up and give yourself some time to set up to hit that defensive shot.
And of course, if you're on offense, you love keeping your opponent's back on that back line.
You're certainly in a better position if you can do that. And of course, the object you're trying to get is to that kitchen line to put yourself in a better offensive position.
Weinbach and Yates will get the serve back. Weinbach and Wright, I should say, will get the serve back.
A little too much from Yates.
Just a little bit long, but what an athletic move that was.
That'll move us to 8-5.
8-5-1.
Johns attacks Weinbach, who was able to play a little defense, but ultimately, Johns wins that exchange.
8-5-2.
Talk about some of the work that some of these players do in pickleball. Ben does pickleball getaways in the destination locations in which you're also teaching people to play pickleball.
Sounds a lot like Scott Moore.
Yeah, Scott Moore does that with pickleball trips.
Scott Moore is one of the most decorated U.S. Open competitors in the history of this tournament as well, playing in the senior bracket.
5-8-1.
Yep, we saw him win senior mixed yesterday. He's also a Triple Crown winner, not this year, but in prior years for the U.S. Open.
5-8-2.
Expect to see Johns and Yates start to drive the ball a little bit more here. They missed a few. Looks like Johns was looking for it, but Kyle took that ball. Right now they're reacting too much. They're giving control over to Weinbach and Wright a little bit too much. They get to dictate play, and Yates and Johns have to defend. It's easy to say just drive the ball, but with players who have such great volleys as Weinbach and Wright do, it's easier said than done.
Points have not been coming in a flurry here in this game, but slowly Weinbach and Wright have built a 3-point advantage.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the kind of game Kyle wants to play here.
Well, Kyle loves the chess aspect of pickleball. That's one of the things that most attracts him to this sport.
Ooh, that is
Matt Wright, that was
indefensible.
nasty.
and that was just an excellent exchange.
That initial attack was so well disguised. That's so tough when you when the player's body's moving in such a way that you think that they're going to hit cross court or down the middle, and instead they lay back that wrist, lay back that paddle, and change the angle. Really tough to react to.
And now Weinbach and Wright just 2 points away from game 2.
Which would get us to a decisive game 3, but we've got a timeout and a stoppage. We'll take a break as well.
U.S. Open Pickleball Championships on CBS Sports Network is sponsored by Franklin, the official bag, glove, and starter set of the U.S. Open Pickleball Championships. By Abeo Footwear. Walk more, live more. By Mueller Sports Medicine. And by Baseline Racket Sport.